Hey everyone, welcome to KSSP Podcast. I am Spencer,
I'm Katie.
and today we're going to be talking about, I guess, what I would say broadly could be belief. So, we're going to be talking about a couple of things relating to that. So, to start off, I have a couple of articles that I just kind of want to share with briefly and go through. Okay, so we're going to start with Harvard Health Publishing, and it's called The Power of the Placebo Effect. So, treating yourself with your mind is possible, but there is more to the placebo effect than positive thinking. Your mind can be a powerful healing tool when given the chance. The idea that your brain can convince your body a fake treatment is the real thing, the so called placebo effect, and thus stimulate healing has been around for millennia. Now, science has found that under the right circumstances, a placebo can be just as effective as traditional treatments.
I Can I say something? I just think
Yeah,
kind of sounds like it almost relates to CBT, like cognitive behavioral therapy.
I feel like it probably. I would say that they could be correlated. I would say because
Yeah,
isn't I don't know much about CBT personally, but isn't it just kind of monitoring your thoughts and
yeah, it's
helping reframe them to be
right.
more positive, kind of?
Exactly. It's reframing your thoughts to be more positive and more realistic. And yeah, it's basically just like telling yourself something over and over again until you believe it.
Okay,
That's pretty much what CBT is, and like very, very basically.
that makes sense, and I understand like that logically makes sense to me why that helps too and why that works. It takes time, but so the placebo effect is more than positive thinking, believing a treatment or procedure will work. It's about creating a stronger connection between the brain and body and how they work together, says Professor Ted Kapchuk of Harvard affiliated Beth Israel Deaconess Medical Center, whose research focuses on the placebo effect. So placebos won't lower your cholesterol or shrink a tumor. Instead, placebos work on symptoms modulated by the brain, like the perception of pain. Placebos may make you feel better, but they will not cure you, says Kapchuk. They have been shown to be most effective for conditions like pain management, stress-related insomnia, and cancer treatment. Side effects like fatigue and nausea. So I feel like that's an important thing just to understand is that they're not necessarily going to, like it said here, affect cholesterol or shrink a tumor just by
It's
thinking about it, you know.
yeah, it's more for
So
like
there are limits, I would say, for sure, to
yeah, it's
the
more for
placebo effect.
psychological conditions, it looks like.
Yeah.
A placebo sweet spot, I'm kind of curious about what that is.
Um,
That's a really short thing we can.
yeah. A study published online by PLOS Biology may have identified what goes on in the brain during a placebo effect. Researchers use functional magnetic resonance imaging to scan the brains of people with chronic pain from knee osteoarthritis. Then everyone was given a placebo and had another brain scan. The researchers noticed that those who felt pain relief had greater activity in the middle frontal gyrus brain region, which makes up about 1/3 of the frontal lobe.
Interesting.
So yeah, more of the, again, like the psychophysical or like your brain, but
Theological.
not necessarily if you have a tumor and then you just tell yourself, I don't have a tumor anymore, that won't like make that disappear. But pain, in a sense, if you tell yourself, I don't have pain anymore, it seems that over time that can actually be helpful in that case for some, not every single pain, obviously, but
Right. Like if you get in a really bad car crash or something and like, your legs bent upside down. Like I don't think
yeah.
that you'll get rid of the pain just by saying that. But if it's like chronic pain or like dull pain, I think it would work better.
Yeah, and I think it's more about just your perception of it, not really. So I don't think it
Not
actually
the
necessarily goes away. It's just your perception of it.
Like it's not like you tell yourself you don't have pain and then your brain releases more oxytocin or something.
Yeah, it's more so you, I don't know, like it's kind of like I would say CBT in a way because you almost, because with CBT, it's not necessarily like your negative I mean, they go away because you changed your mindset. So the pain goes away because you kind of, in a sense, changed your mindset to where it isn't the sole focus or something. I don't know the exact rationale behind how it works, but it kind of just makes sense to me in a way that if you
Yeah.
don't focus on, and also I think part of that would be if you think about what's causing your pain, then you can try to understand what's caused, like maybe sitting in a chair, you realize that sitting in this specific spot is making your pain worse. So then you stop sitting in that spot. So that eventually also makes your pain better. So it's also kind of understanding when you take the time to sit there and think about the pain. And then you can start to realize what maybe enhances it and what makes it better too. So just over time, that can help you understand those aspects of it too, I would say. And then over here, I have another kind of article from NIH.
Okay.
And this one is called The Biochemistry of Belief. A mention of the placebo is most appropriate at this juncture. Medical history is replete with numerous reported cases where placebos were found to have a profound effect on a variety of disorders. One such astounding case was that of a woman suffering from severe nausea and vomiting. Objective measurements of her gastric contractions indicated a disputed pattern matching the condition she complained of. Then a new, magical, extremely potent drug was offered to her, which would, the doctors proclaimed, undoubtedly cure her nausea. Within a few minutes, her nausea vanished. The very same gastric test now revealed normal pattern when in actuality she had been given syrup of ipecac. I don't know how you say that. A substance usually used to induce nausea. When the syrup was presented to her, paired with the strong suggestion of relief of nausea by an authority figure, it acted as a command message to the brain that triggered a cascade of self regulatory biochemical responses within the body. This instance dramatically demonstrates that the influence of placebo could be more potent than expected drug effect.
Interesting. So they basically gave her something that usually induces nausea, but they told her it would cure
Help
her
her
nausea,
nausea.
help her nausea, and then the nausea went away because of that belief.
Yeah, so I
Because
always find that
man,
interesting with
message to the brain.
um, the placebo effect too, because I also know of cases where like they're doing drug trials, and obviously in a drug trial there's going to be like a control group who gets a placebo pill and then the actual group who gets the medication, and sometimes the group that got the placebo will still show the effects as if they were taking the medication. So I think our brains are powerful, but I'm not going to ever make a claim that, again, if you, I don't think, at least from what we know, our brains are not powerful enough to just send out chemicals that can destroy cancer. So
Mm-hmm.
they have limits. I would say there's limits to what our brain can do. At least from what we know, there appears to be limits. So that just is important to keep in mind. But I do think our brains and belief is powerful. And then there's another one here. Another remarkable study involved a schizophrenic. This woman was observed to have split personality. Under normal conditions, her blood glucose levels were normal. However, the moment she believed she was diabetic, her entire physiology changed to become that of a diabetic, including elevated blood glucose levels.
Now, okay, I wonder with that. I wonder if the elevated glucose levels, part of that was the stress that she would have
That's,
experienced as a diabetic, because I know stress can raise your glucose levels.
yeah, but I don't think so. She isn't diabetic.
Right. I know she's not diabetic.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Uh, I mean, how does it say it doesn't say how elevated her glucose levels were though. Because
Um,
for like a non-diabetic, like even 150 can be an elevated glucose level.
yeah.
You know,
So
like
you're saying just stress in general, not,
not
yeah.
just for diabetics, but
Okay.
I
Yeah.
think, and because she believed she was diabetic, maybe that did impact it a little bit too. But like the stress that would come with that would also impact the glucose level, I would think, especially if she was believing she was diabetic.
Yes, I
Yeah,
agree with that. Like,
my-
I think it's important to take in all the factors because obviously all we know is that she started to believe she was a diabetic, but why did she believe that? Did she maybe start having symptoms that she knew could be related to diabetes that ended up leading to diet, like, and so her belief wasn't wrong. She just like had intention and knew that she was developing it, too. Like
Yeah.
her brain was like, you are developing diabetes, so then she thought she was, and then she did in a way.
Right.
So it wasn't her belief that she was becoming a diabetic. It was more so the fact that she was becoming a diabetic influenced her, not like an intuition type thing. I don't know much about
And
the science of behind intuition or whatever, but
I
I'm
do want
just
to make a
saying,
disclaimer here. If you are diabetic, you can't just tell yourself that you're not diabetic. That's not going to work. Just so that you all know, just to
yeah.
clarify that.
I
Because
think that's
I've
an
tried. I've tried.
yes, an
It doesn't,
important anytime we talk about any topic like manifestation or belief, you need to that's where the limits are very important to understand.
yeah.
Like if you want to, like how you said I don't know how you did it, but like if somebody at night, every night before they goes to bed, wants to be like, I don't have diabetes anymore, like, and see what happens, that's fine. But you have to be realistic that you probably will not get rid of it that way. But if you want to test it and see what happens, go for it. But you have to be realistic that you still have diabetes and you probably will continue to have it. Like it's not.
And even if you tell yourself you don't have that, you still should be monitoring your blood
Oh
sugar,
yeah,
giving your insulin. Like even if you're telling yourself you're not diabetic, because
yes,
like there are limits to manifestation and all of that.
yeah. I 100% agree with that,
Like
and I think that's something that everybody, anytime anybody who's going out and talking about manifestation and posting about it, even just a short 5-second TikTok video, needs to be very clear that there are
mhm,
limits so that people do not make bad decisions that end up hurting them.
right,
Because
because
we
I
are
really,
responsible for our words. Our words do
yeah,
matter. What we say matters. So we need to be very purposeful with our words and very clear with what we are saying.
yes, and I would say that in my opinion, I guess manifestation is more of a psychological thing where the more you tell yourself something, the more you believe it, and the more your actions are going to be guided towards that belief. But it's manifestation is never a guarantee that you're going to get something. It's just a way to uh, enhance your chances that you will. But there's
I
certain things that you just can't manifest into reality. That's just the truth. That's what the limits are, like you were saying.
Yes, I agree with that. Because again, if you manifest that you're going to become a millionaire or billionaire, in my opinion, that may come true, but you have to put in work for
Right.
that to happen. It's not just going to happen. You have to figure out how that's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like you can believe it though. That's great to have that belief that you are gonna.
And because they show, I don't have any links for this, but I know like there's studies that show that like the more you visualize something happening, the more likely it is to happen. And I
Yeah,
mean that's not true with like everything obviously, but like if you visualize like I'm going to start my own business and be successful, if you picture yourself having a successful business, your business is more likely to be successful, but you still do have to put in the work and do everything. You have to do the things right still, but you're just more likely to lead yourself to that path if you visualize it.
I agree with that. And I also feel like part of that is stepping into that energy. Because I've like a I guess to me I describe it as energy. I don't know what other people describe it as, but more so just that mindset energy of being a successful business person in a way. Like you have to, like you said, visualize it and feel it and then change your mindset to believing that you're going to be, because if you don't believe, I do agree that if you don't believe you're going to be successful, you probably won't, just because
Right.
our minds do sometimes cause us
Yeah.
to make like
Yeah.
subconscious decisions in a way, I would say.
And it's like it's basic CBT. Like your thoughts lead to your feelings and your actions. Like that's just
Yes.
how the brain works. What's this article now?
So this is the Harvard Gazette, when science meets mindfulness. So researchers study how it seems to change the brain in depressed patients. So I think this one I kind of wanted to go over because it talks about, if I remember, it kind of talks about so mindfulness, so like meditation. So studies have shown benefits against an array of conditions, both physical and mental, including irritable bowel syndrome, fibromyalgia, psoriasis, anxiety, depression, and post-traumatic stress disorder. But some of those findings have been called into question because studies had small sample sizes or problematic experimental designs. Still, there are a handful of key areas, including depression, chronic pain, and anxiety, in which well designed, well run studies have shown benefits for patients engaging in a mindfulness meditation program with effects similar to other existing treatments. So, we'll talk about exploring meditation's effects on the brain of clinically depressed patients. Working with patients selected and screened, she's performing magnetic resonance imaging scans before and after an 8-week course in mindfulness based cognitive therapy. During the scans, participants complete 2 tests, one that encourages them to become more aware of their bodies by focusing on their heartbeats, and exercise related to mindfulness meditation, and the other asking them to reflect on phrases common in the self chatter of depressed patients, such as "I am such a loser" or "I can't go on." After a series of such comments, the participants are asked to stop ruminating on the phrases and the thoughts they trigger. Researchers will measure how quickly subjects can disengage from negative thoughts, typically a difficult task for the depressed. The process will be repeated for a control group that undergoes muscle relaxation training and depression education instead of the mindfulness. While it's possible that patients in the control part of the study will also have reduced depressive symptoms, they said it should occur via different mechanisms in the brain, a difference that may be revealed by the scans. It's interesting to see. It will be interesting to, and there are already some studies out
But
there about
scan looks
meditation too.
interesting.
This one, I don't know what
What does it say at the bottom?
functional MRI showing activation in the amygdala when participants were watching images with emotional content before learning meditation after 8 weeks of training in mindful meditation. Note the amygdala is less activated after the meditation training.
Oh, okay. So yeah, it's just the activity of the amygdala, which is like where you feel like emotions, especially fear.
Yes. So, and then after 8 weeks of
So
their
basically,
mindfulness
yeah,
meditation,
it's like
it
lessening their anxiety in the brain.
yeah. So that is interesting to see
Yeah,
for sure. Like a visual too.
yeah.
I I love MRIs. Like using them in this way,
I've
and I
gotten an
think
MRI before.
you have.
They just gave me these
Oh,
supplements. They said I had ADHD, which I do, but they said I didn't have PTSD, which I do have.
oh.
And I got mad at them for that. I was like, "What are you even talking?"
What was the brain scan for?
Oh, it was just to see if I had like what mental problems I had, basically.
Oh, can they do that with the brain? Like, it was an MRI, or was it like a PET, or was it a
I
not
think
a
it was an
PET, but like
MRI.
an MRA, or not an MRA?
I don't know the
What are
difference between
those?
all these things, honestly, so I don't know.
Okay,
I just know I went and do a little thing and they scanned my brain.
interesting. Or like a
Yeah,
SPECT?
I'll have to ask my mom if she still has those papers and I can show you.
Yeah, that would be cool to see. Interesting to see too. Because did they make you think of things while you were in it? Like they
I don't
gave you
even
things
I
to
don't
like.
remember on it was so long ago.
Okay.
I was like 18, so
Hmm.
like I don't really remember it too much.
Did it change like your plan of care with any other doctor though, or no?
No, I mean I haven't
Oh,
shown it to any
okay.
doctors.
And they probably
They were
did insurance even cover that scan, or
no,
was that all
no,
out
my
of
mom paid
pocket?
for it.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, no, like I don't trust Dr. Amen. Just I mean, but his vitamins didn't do anything for me.
Yeah, you're just
They didn't do anything.
yeah. So just being cautious with any like
Yeah,
with any doctor or
just
anything,
be
you would
cautious with
want to
who
be
you trust.
cautious. Yes. Is he national? Like is he like
Well,
a
he's
big
pretty famous, but
Oh, okay.
he's in California though.
Oh, okay. I was like, is this a South Dakota
He
doctor?
was
But
in
I don't
San
know.
Diego,
But
I think.
oh, okay. Does he have books and stuff?
I didn't actually meet Dr. Amen. I talked with a different doctor, but like it was his clinic.
Oh. So then here we have Oprah Daily because I think I mean I don't I feel a lot of people still like Oprah, maybe. Yes. Maybe,
Yeah,
I don't know.
at 50-50 maybe, I don't know.
I mean, she's a billionaire though, so we do have to take that into account
That's true, but she did
with
give
any
people
billionaire.
a bunch of cars, so that was cool.
Yeah. but then they probably had tax liabilities on it. But
I mean,
that's just anytime you're giving someone a gift, you have to take into consideration the tax liability that they are going to be stuck with. But I'm not saying she did that to do that,
yeah.
but here's an article. I don't even know, and it doesn't look like it was necessarily written by her, but it's on her website team. How to manifest anything you desire.
Written by Kimberly.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Zapata.
I don't know how to say the last name.
I, I'm not
It kind of
sure.
looks Italian though. I
Maybe.
should know how to say it.
So I'm just gonna again skim this here. So here with manifestation, keep in mind it doesn't happen overnight. Although manifesting is about turning your dreams into reality, it does require you to take proactive steps towards whatever it is you desire. You shouldn't expect it to happen instantly, but even though it's a lengthy process, that time is a small price to pay for a hopefully profound impact on your life. So, what is manifestation? It's bringing something tangible into your life through attraction and belief ish to an extent.
Yeah.
If you think it, it will come potentially, not guaranteed. However, there is more to manifestation than willpower and positive thinking. It's making everything you want to feel and experience a reality via your thoughts, actions, beliefs, and emotions. So, you want to be clear about your goals. So, I'd say that's just making sure that you kind of know. So, that to me just becomes kind of setting up a plan to how to achieve your goals. So, you want to know what your goals are. So, like you mentioned earlier about being a business person, if you want to be a business person, a successful business person, you have to come up with a plan, but you need to also have that clear goal about what type of successful, like what kind of business do you want to run,
Yeah. And how are you going to
what
do it?
kind of, yeah, how are you going to, what are you going to do, how are you going to do it, are you going to have help? So you need to have a like a very clear set goal in a way,
Right. And
and that's with anything in life
yeah.
too, I would
And
say. But
I would say, yeah, the best way if you want to do manifestation, I think it's not just picturing yourself at the end of the goal. You need to picture yourself taking those steps too,
yes,
because that's going to visualizing those steps is going to help you actually work towards them.
yes, I agree with that. And then here it says once you set your intention goal, then you just need to kind of ask for what you want, I guess, and write it down on paper. So I would say that's kind of like how you just mentioned. You need to know your steps and then writing down them so that you don't forget them. I always find, for me, I find very helpful to write down things so that I don't forget them. So to me, that's kind of what that would be. And I guess like vision boards. I've never done a vision board personally, but
Vision
if they
boards
help
can
you,
be
that's
fun.
awesome.
It could be fun.
Yeah, like I think
You
I've
think
done some on Pinterest for like what I want. Like, but my I do when I do them, I do it for like interior design. Like I'm like, what do I want my future bedroom to look like in my like dream house? And then I'll find random like that's my I guess when I do vision boards. I haven't ever done one for like a few like how I want my future to look though, I guess per
Oh,
se.
okay.
But you can do them for anything too.
Yeah.
Like your backyard if you want to have some nice um I don't know, like a garden and flowers and all that, then you can find pictures online and have ideas to inspire you for when you can do that, you know?
Yeah. And I guess the only thing I would say that in my experience kind of goes against the manifestation is with romantic relationships. Like you tend to find those more when you're not looking for them
I agree.
than when you're actually trying to manifest that, because people can kind of sense desperation, if, for lack of a better word. And it's not always exactly desperate, but like they can sense when you're looking for something, and like people are more comfortable when you're not just
Yeah.
only looking for that.
And sometimes, unfortunately, when you are looking for a relationship, someone else can sense that and then manipulate you into thinking that they are looking for the same thing. And then it becomes kind of like an abusive, manipulative situation.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I've been
So
there.
that's always taking that into caution as well. And I'm not saying that you can't like it's okay to know what you want in a relationship. Like if you are like when the next partner I have, I want to have like marry and have kids. Like you can be upfront and honest with
Yeah,
them about that. But
of course. Just make sure you're looking for the same things.
yes, yes. So that's about just open community. Like I would say some of the things we talked about in our relationship episode and then
Yeah,
some too. But
definitely.
so another thing, start working towards your goals. And then I guess here it says being mindful and thankful for what you receive. Let go of any resistance and limiting beliefs. And then make sure to check and change your energy. To me, that's kind of just probably kind of in a way CBT or meditation,
Mhm.
just kind of helping change your stepping into that new
Oh
timeline energy
no.
is what people claim.
Oh
I
no.
know. I
Cool. It just said the opposite of what we just said.
well, let me.
Let's
I
see.
think
I mean, you can manifest, like, in a sense, like what you're looking for in a partner.
yes.
I think that's okay. It's
And
just
I think
when you're
part of
trying to
this
manifest and force a relationship, that's when it gets bad.
how I perceive this is them like because I always try to critically or not critically I just try to think about what do you mean by you're going to manifest a relationship, but to me that just means in a sense like I would say for me and maybe us, we are open to making new friendships to
Yeah.
where in the past I don't think I was necessarily ready because I think I had a lot of self reflection that I had to go and not that I don't still, but I'm more open to making new connections,
Hmm.
especially for our podcast. So if anybody has any good ideas, we'd love to talk. But
Yeah.
even just friendships, I'm more open to that now. So now I'm willing to go out and put myself in places that I wouldn't before. So, but again, I am taking those steps. I am putting in effort to do this. It's not, I'm just thinking that a friend is randomly going to drop by my
Right.
house one day and knock on the door and I manifested them. No, you still have to maybe put yourself out, whether it's on, if it could be a dating app or a friend app or just like
Yeah.
mutual friends,
Humble.
making connections, whatever it is, but you still have to, so you're still doing effort. It doesn't just happen is what I would take from that. Like I guess I don't know what they say fully here, but that's okay cuz and even with money again, you
Yeah.
have to plan it in a way. And nothing just happens, unfortunately. I
Right.
mean, that would be amazing if manifesting was literally just thinking it and then we could teleport to what the 10th dimension and then or I guess we'd probably want to teleport to one of the timeline dimensions so that we could
Mhm.
travel through time to get to our manifestations right away. But unfortunately, we can't do that. We don't have the technology or physiology to do that. So,
Yeah. I don't know if that's gonna happen or not. Maybe one day.
nah. So, we have to stick with this third dimension that we're in and
For now.
follow the rules and laws of physics that we know at this time with manifestation, which is we have to physically and in the third like because sometimes I think people also think that sometimes you can just go like into your brain like a very deep meditation and manifest and then tomorrow it'll be manifested into the three dimension reality, but you have to still put work in to make it happen. It doesn't just happen just
Right.
because you think about it, but the thinking about it is a very important step because then you come up with your plan to know how to get it in a way,
Yeah.
but you still have to work in the three, like we can't ignore the third dimension that we live in. It's a reality that we live in. So
The first is NPR.org. They have an article. Well, they have a few articles here. The Science of Spirituality. So I'm going to go over all of these really quickly, and then we're going to look a little deeper into some of them. So, decoding the mystery of near death experiences. Some researchers are exploring whether a mind can operate while the brain has stopped. One neuroscientist says that after a near death experience, people's brains appear to undergo changes at the neural level. Can positive thoughts help heal another person? The idea that positive thoughts and prayer can affect your health has been taught at medical schools for years. But can your thoughts affect another person physically? A few renegade scientists are conducting studies between loved ones to find that out, and they say it's possible. Prayer may reshape your brain and your reality. Scans show that people who spend untold hours in prayer or meditation go dark in the parietal lobe, the brain area that helps create a sense of self. A researcher says these people may be rewriting the neural connections in their brains, altering how they see the world. Are spiritual encounters all in your head? Scientists suspect Moses and other religious figures were epileptic, but that doesn't mean they didn't really hear God. One researcher has created the God helmet, which uses sensors to reproduce mystical experience by manipulating brain chemistry. The God chemical, brain chemistry and mysticism. In a study at Johns Hopkins, a majority of test subjects given a psychedelic drug reporting having full-blown mystical experiences. Such research is shedding light on the chemical reactions that take place in the brain when people feel they're encountering God. Bradley Haggerty on Science and God. NPR's Barbara Bradley Haggerty spent a year exploring the science of spirituality for her book Fingerprints of God. She tells Michelle Norris that she concluded that science can't prove or disprove the existence of God. So, all right. I think I want to look at the near-death experiences one
Okay.
first.
Have you ever had a near-death experience?
I've had an actual death experience and I've had near-death experiences. But yeah, I
Okay.
mean, when I died, and they brought me back, but when I died, like I was in a coma and everything was just all black. Like I didn't see the hospital room. I didn't see a tunnel with a bright light. I didn't see Jesus. Like it was just all blackness for me. And it was very comforting though, in a way. Like, I mean, yeah, because it
I wonder,
just takes
with
out
you
a lot of
saying that, I wonder, especially the key word that you just said is comfort. I
yeah.
feel like our brains do whatever is going to be comforting to us. So people who are religious and believe in heaven are going to see religious things in a near death experience because to them that is comforting and our brain wants us to be comfortable. I
Right.
think that's just a theory that I
I
don't know if
completely
there's
agree.
any science behind it, but
I
with
think
you
there is
saying that,
behind it.
oh, okay.
That at least, and we'll see if there's something here too.
Yeah. But just with you saying that word comfort,
Yeah.
to me that is a key with near
So
death
this
experience.
lady, yeah. Oh yeah. So this lady, she noticed a tunnel and a bright light. She eventually flatlined completely, and the surgeons drained the blood out of her head. During the near death experience, she said she chatted with her dead grandmother and uncle, who escorted her back to the operating room. She said as they looked down at her body, she could hear the Eagle Sound Hotel California playing in the operating room as the doctors restarted her heart. She said her body looked like a train wreck and she didn't want to return. My uncle pushed me, she said, laughing, and when I hit the body, the line in the song was, "You can check out anytime you like, but you can never leave." I opened my eyes and I said, this is really insensitive. Yeah, from a scientific perception, the doctor says, I have absolutely no explanation about how it could have happened. Alternative explanation. Okay. So this report provides absolutely no evidence for survival of any sort of consciousness outside of the body during near-death experiences or any other such experiences, says Gerald Worley. He's an Australian researcher and near-death experience debunker who investigated Reynolds' case, says what happened to her is easy to explain. He says when they cut into her head, she was jolted into consciousness. At that point, they had not yet drained blood from her brain. He believed she could hear despite clicking earplugs. There are various explanations. Oh, Morley says. One, that the earphones or plugs were not that tightly fitting. Two, it could have been that it was due to some sound transmission through the operating table itself. So Reynolds could have heard conversations. As for seeing the Midas Rex bone he saw, he says she recognized a sound from her childhood. She made a picture in her mind of a machine or a device which is very similar to what she was familiar with, a dental drill. Reynolds experienced anesthesia awareness, in which a person is conscious but cannot move. He figures back to 1991 that happened in 1 out of every 2,000 operations. It's kind of terrifying, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So cardiologist Sabom or neurosurgeon Splitzer, they believe the combination of anesthesia and the sluggish brain activity caused by hypothermia meant that Reynolds could not form or retain memories for a significant part of the operation. At the very least, Reynolds' story raised the possibility that consciousness can function even when the brain is offline. In the end, Reynolds' story is just an anecdote. And that's the problem with all the studies of near-death experiences. After all, you can't do clinical trials where you kill Mrs. Smith and
I
tag along as she passes through the tunnel to the light to justify her story. True.
think
We
that'd
can't
be a
just
little
kill people.
unethical. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that goes against the Hippocratic Oath a little bit.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Mhm. All right, let's see. And it seems that these people have a different sort of brain, Beer Guide said in his soft French accent. It's like there's a shift in their brain, and the shift will allow people to stay in touch with the spiritual world more easily on a daily basis.
Are they trying to do a near-death study?
I think, yeah, but they're not like, obviously, they're not going out and killing, like, they're just
Well,
finding people who are having near death experiences and studying them, I think.
okay.
Okay, it's like the near death experience triggered something at a neural level in the brain, he said, and perhaps this change in terms of brain activity is sort of permanent. It's as if touching death jump started the spiritual lives of these people. Their brains in the spiritual state look a lot like those of Catholic nuns and Buddhist monks who have spent tens of thousands of hours in prayer and meditation. Both groups showed extremely slow brainwave activity. The researchers also saw significant changes in brain regions associated with positive emotions, attention, and personal boundaries, as subjects who had near death experiences lost their sense of physical bodies and merged with God, or the light. Brain chemistry or trip to heaven? Let's see. So the brain function of many of these people who've undergone a near-death experience is altered. That's correct. It's altered. Extreme oxygen starvation does change brain function because it causes brain damage to the larger cells in the brain. It's brain chemistry, he says, not a trip to heaven. I would agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I found that dichotomy everywhere as I interviewed experts about the emergent science of spirituality. It's kind of like a Rorschach test. Some researchers look at the data and say spiritual experience is only an electrical storm in the temporal lobe or a brain gasping for oxygen, all fully explainable by science. Others say our brains are reflecting an encounter with the divine. And almost invariably, when a scientist stands on that issue, it has little to do with the clinical findings of any study. It's almost everything to do with the scientist's personal beliefs.
That
Yeah, so
makes
I would say, yeah, it's just we're not literally going to heaven. Like our brains are creating that. And I mean, if you believe in heaven, then that's fine. And
yeah.
maybe you will get to heaven after you die. We don't really know. But I think the near death experiences, at least, are all neurological.
I agree.
That would be my opinion.
Because we don't have any because there's no cases of like somebody, as far as I know, being deceased for months or years and then coming back. So we don't have any like I mean, yes, like you said that you did die, but they resuscitated you right away.
Yeah,
So
well, it
like you
took a
weren't
little bit to resuscitate me, I think. It took at
but it
least.
wasn't like a week or
Oh,
anything.
no, I wasn't
It
dead.
was
I was
yeah,
dead
cuz like
for something.
your brain can survive a little bit. I don't remember the exact amount of
I
time.
think
It's not long,
I
but a
think it's
little bit of
8
time.
minutes or something like that, if I remember correctly.
It
I
might
think that I've
I'm
heard
not
8
sure,
minutes. I think that's what I've heard.
but so in that 8 minutes, it's almost like your brain is just comforting. Because obviously, why would your brain want to make you like go through stress? You know?
Right, your brain's trying to calm you down. It's trying to relax the body so
Yeah,
that
and I mean like
because the more relaxed you are, the more limp your body's going to be and the less pain you're going to feel.
yes,
All right. So this is the other one on NPR I wanted to look at quick. The God chemical, brain chemistry and mysticism. Yeah, so right here it says the car crash victim feels himself floating above his body. I had kind of a similar experience. I wasn't outside of my body, but like when so I was in a car crash where the car flipped a couple times over a 50-foot embankment, and as the car is flipping, I heard a voice, and like the spiritual part of me, like not the logical part, but it wants to believe that it was my grandmother because she's passed away before I was born. So I kind of sometimes think she protects me in a sense, like her spirit protects me. even though it's not logical. That's just my belief. And I heard her say, like, put your hand over your head so you don't break your back. And I did that, and I didn't break a single bone in my body. So that was like, I guess, the most spiritual near death experience I've had. Let's see. The first major rigorous study of psychedelics and spirituality occurred on Good Friday in 1962. Researchers from Harvard gave 10 divinity students LSD to see if the sacred setting combined with drugs would spark a mystical experience. It did. Soon afterwards, researchers in other prominent universities began administering psychedelic drugs to volunteered and controlled settings. By the end of the 1960s, the U.S. government had enough of Timothy Leary's call to turn on, tune in, drop out. Were concerned that the generation was conducting its own uncontrolled experience with drugs and spirituality. In the early 70s, the experiments ended, until now. And then they talk about the peyote some more.
Because I think that must be when they started the war on drugs too, is when
Yeah.
his
And I
whole
think that was in the 70s, with whenever Richard Nixon was around. I'm pretty sure
uh,
he's the one who started it. And Ronald Reagan didn't make it any better. He made it a lot worse, too.
yeah.
Um, So they asked me to lay down with headphones and the most powerful music I've heard, Sokol recalls. I was blindfolded and I began to have my experience. Sokol was involved in 5 sessions and she describes them as the most profound experiences of her life. I know that I had a merging with what I call oneness. I am, she says. There was a time that I was being gently pulled into it and I saw it as light. It isn't even describable. It's not just light, it's love. I feel that, honestly. I can
Yeah.
relate to that. Let's see. Serotonin and the mechanism of mysticism. If we assume that the psychedelic drug induced state is very much like the mystical state, Snyder says, then if we find out the molecular mechanism of the action of the drug, then you could say that we have some insight into what's going on in the brains of mystics. Snyder, who is chairman of neuroscience development at Johns Hopkins and was not involved in the study, says scientists suspect that a key player in mystical experience is the serotonin system. The neurotransmitter serotonin affects the parts of the brain that relate to emotions and perceptions. Chemically, peyote, LSD, and other psychedelics look a lot like serotonin, and they activate the same receptor. And this makes sense to me too, because when I think about it, like when people go manic, their serotonin is usually higher than it's supposed to be, at least from what I understand and in my experience. Uh, like when you have high levels of serotonin, you can become manic, and a lot of times manic people will have very like spiritual experiences, such as like believing that they're God or believing that they're talking to God, things like that. So I would say that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Those delusions of grandeur.
Exactly, yeah. And yeah, that's just, and in my personal experience, like it almost feels like I am a god when I'm manic.
Yeah.
I think of the serotonin receptor as the bouncer at a nightclub. The party is a bit tame, and when the bouncer spots the fun chemical, the active ingredient psilocybin, he lets Mr. Fun into the club. Suddenly, the party picks up and the brain chemicals are burning up the floor. Let the spiritual experience begin. Of course, it's more complicated than that. There are other chemicals and receptors at play, and of course, mystical experience happens without drugs, through prayer, meditation, chanting, and fasting. Ooh, fasting. Oh, I don't like the idea of fasting. I can't even do it
Yeah.
anyways.
I was like, I don't think you can safely do it.
No, I
So
can't.
fasting has to be safely done. So if anyone's thinking of fasting, you need to look into it and see if
Right.
it's even
And
safe and talk to a doctor if it's
yes,
safe for you. Don't just do
especially if
it.
you have a medical condition, talk to a doctor before
Yes.
you fast.
Do
If you have
not just start fasting.
yeah, that can be really bad for you.
Yes.
And when we talked about this yesterday with the LSD trips of
Cancer.
patients with
Yeah.
end-stage cancer, so we don't need to go over that again. So those were the 2 NPR articles I wanted to go over.
Okay.
And now we're going to, this is positivepsychology.com, the science of spirituality, 16 tips to build your spiritual practice. While understanding of spirituality differs across religions and belief systems, it can be described by finding meaning and purpose in life. Religion and spirituality are not understood in the same way, though they often overlap. Spirituality describes a much broader understanding of an individual's connection with the transcendent aspects of life. Seeking meaningful connection with something bigger than yourself can result in increased positive emotions. Transcendent moments are filled with peace, awe, and contentment. Emotional and spiritual well being overlap, like most aspects of well being. Though not all positive emotions simulate a self transcendent state, some increase with practices in spirituality. So, spirituality and science. Yeah, well, the experience of emotions varies from person to person. The experience of transcendent emotions can be seen as more universal and is connected spiritually. Transcendent emotions promote behaviors that connect human beings and stabilize pro social connection. Self transcendent emotions include compassion, awe, gratitude, appreciation, inspiration, admiration, elevation, and love.
I think those are the emotions that our politicians should be leading with.
Wouldn't that be the dream?
Anybody should be leading with.
Yeah. There are empirically validated interventions for the following four virtues: hope, gratitude, forgiveness, and self compassion. Ooh, those would be nice to implement too.
Yeah. And they feel nicer too. Like if you, because I'm sure you have also, like me, felt, I mean, I've been angry. I've felt fear, but I've also felt compassion and I felt love. And compassion and love are a much lighter feeling than fear and anger.
They're
And
better
they
for your
feel,
body too.
yes, I was going to say the physiological response that I feel to anger, I hate. It's
Oh
so
yeah,
uncomfortable.
me being angry.
But
It's like,
feeling compassion, love, forgiveness, those emotions are just so like beautiful almost.
yeah,
So there's also just that, like, I feel like if they led with these, just it would feel better for them too. Like I don't know why they choose to lead with hatred and fear. It's just odd to me that,
yeah,
like, I get it. It helps them get followers and helps them stay in power, but it's just disgusting. Like why would you want to live that way? I don't
yeah,
understand that.
definitely. Yeah, I don't know why you would want to live in that state either. Some people just get stuck, and some people just like to wallow in their negative emotions. And I've been there. I've wallowed in negative
Yeah.
emotions before. Sometimes you just get stuck, but you gotta just do what you can. Ask for help if you need to. You know, it's okay to ask for help. It's always
Oh
okay to
yeah.
ask for help. You know, as long as it's someone you can trust to be there for you, you know, and help you out. Like if it's a therapist or a friend or a parent or whoever, like, you know, it's always okay to ask for help.
And as communities, we need to start being better towards each other again, I
Oh,
think. And
absolutely.
I know obviously with COVID, a lot of people have been inside and chronically online, I would say, and
Hmm.
there's a lot of hatred and anger and fear when you're chronically online because that is
Oh
what
yeah.
almost the internet feeds off of. But when we are
Bullshit.
out in public, we need to be better.
Yes.
Like when you're online, I mean, being online, your words are important and what you say matters.
Yeah.
And what you say can have consequences that can affect others. So
Oh
you
yeah,
need to be careful with what you are saying online.
definitely. You need
But I also understand that
always
it's not
yes.
100% real life and people are trolls on the internet. So they may
Oh,
be
yes.
spreading
Mhm.
fear and hatred that they wouldn't say in real life.
Right.
So I understand that not like if I were to go out in my community, I don't necessarily feel like I would like feel the hatred and anger that I see online, but it's still something that I don't. I just feel like communities are becoming more disconnected in a way, but maybe that's just my perception, and maybe other people would disagree with that, and that's okay because that's just what I feel I see. And I would be glad if I was wrong because I don't. That's not where we want to be heading. We want our communities to be leading with love and hope and compassion and helping each other and because that's the only way as communities we're going to survive either
Hmm.
too. We need to support each other in our community. I mean, I would say globally, but some people don't like talking about supporting everyone globally, but at least in your
So
communities you
yeah,
need to be
we
able to
should all
support each other and help each other.
yeah, just be the kindest person you can be. I mean, you can still, if someone's being a jerk to you, you can still stand up for yourself at that
Oh
point.
yeah, when
You
I
know, if nobody's trying to hurt you or is no one's being mean, like always act with kindness.
I think in some camp like thing that I went to when I was a little youngin, Um,
Mhm.
we were taught, I think it's the golden rule. Is that the one that's treat people
Yeah,
how you want to be treated? Yeah.
yeah, that's a
I
goal.
still follow that. I still believe that.
Oh, I was
If
taught that
someone,
in school too.
yeah, so I will always initially treat people with respect, but if they're not going to respect me, why do I owe them respect? I feel like you owe people what they give you in a way.
Yeah,
But by that, I don't mean go out and be rude. Like, you can't, if you lead with disrespect, then you're going to get disrespect back. And that is
you
just,
need to lead positively
yes,
into
yes,
any kind of social interactions. You need to lead positively, sense out the situation, and like act appropriately.
yes. And like you said, if you get treated with disrespect, you can give that back because
Yeah,
it's just because we shouldn't bow down or bend over backwards to try to be nice to people who aren't nice to
right.
us. I don't think. I
Exactly. I
again,
agree.
I don't like being mean and I don't like those emotions, but you also have to that becomes like almost self-defense in a way. Like you're just
Yeah, you have to defend yourself.
standing up for yourself. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like, and that doesn't mean you have to go and overtly attack them either. You can just defend yourself and then be done with them. That's what I prefer to do, I guess. But it's whatever you feel like is justified in that moment, I guess I would say. For based on your particular circumstance and scenario. It's going to be dependent on all that, I would say.
yeah, for sure. All right. So let's see here. The theory includes both pathways to goal attainment and agency. Hopeful thoughts reflect the belief that one can find pathways to desired goals and become motivated to use those pathways. Hope, by this definition, drives the emotions and well being of human beings. Depending on the worldview, hope interventions can help find pathways to connect with the divine and improve one's well being. It will differ by religion and one's understanding of the role of the divine and the agency of hope. Interventions that respect the individual's worldview will clearly become more accepted and helpful. The psychology of gratitude is conceptualized as higher emotion connected to morality. Gratitude has been described in science as a pro-social moral emotion that is useful for two key reasons. It functions as a moral barometer because it indicates when an interpersonal interaction is perceived as beneficial, and it reminds us that our power is limited. The benefits of practice of gratitude are far-reaching regardless of religious ideation. And then the psychology of forgiveness has various definitions. The broadest is an adaptive human instinct activated in certain social situations. By this definition, forgiveness does not require a future relationship with someone who has wronged you. It frees you instead of the instinct for vengeance. That last line is super freaking important because forgiveness doesn't mean that things go back to the way they were necessarily. Forgiveness just it like they said, it frees you instead of the instinct for vengeance. So you're not constantly looking for revenge. You're basically you're not letting that feeling control your life anymore. You're not letting what they did to you control your life.
Yes.
So yeah. Then the psychology of self compassion has been empirically backed through the work of Kristen. Self compassion is conceptualized in three components. So, self compassion, expressing kindness towards oneself and viewing one's shortcomings with non judgmental attitude, correcting one's experience of suffering with that of the collective human experience, and become mindful of the suffering without becoming attached or making a part of. So, basically, like empathy for yourself, self compassion.
Yeah.
So, the skeptical take. All right. Even well meaning psychologists may have a negativity bias towards interventions offered in positive psychology. With a traditional focus on diagnosis and pathology treatment, less attention is spent on psychological health. Opening minds to interventions that encompass spirituality might help aid in the individual in treatment. There have been over 300 studies seeking to understand the relationship between spirituality and health. Yet there remain many who question the validity of the impact spirituality can have on well being. Many practitioners and the hard scientists have a healthy skepticism towards data and hypotheses that are correlation rather than causal. That's important. One might say the skeptics thought, what will it hurt? Discussing an individual's spirituality and treatment could spark that they need to ignite their hope and motivation towards personal goals. A descriptive rather than prescriptive understanding of spirituality may do more good than harm, especially when action is later self motivated. So, six empirically proven benefits of spirituality. They don't number them. That's great.
Oh,
Yeah. So, increased social stressors have been linked to physiological problems like respiratory illness and increased risk for cardiovascular problems. Uh, Theorists have hypothesized that an individual's spiritual practices can influence physiological as well as psychological well being. With so many links to immune system boosts and higher survival rates in heart surgery survivors, it is important to have a look at the proven benefits of spirituality. Though the causality, spiritual influence, and the physiological well being is more challenging to prove, there is ample evidence to highlight the benefits one might experience by having spiritual practice. Most studies are correlational, not causational. However, most are also empirically proven across religions. Most people would agree they don't need experiential evidence to intuit that spirituality will help them have higher rates of overall well being and life satisfaction.
do you think the main reason they are emphasizing correlational is just because we don't understand maybe the mechanisms exactly why
Exactly.
this works? Okay. But
Exactly.
it,
Yep.
like, I would still argue that it does obviously help, but I understand the importance of emphasizing that it is, at least right now, to our knowledge,
Yeah.
correlational rather than
Well, and they
causation.
talk about how the brain waves slow down, which is good for you,
Yeah.
which means I would assume that would mean your heart rate would slow down as well, which would be good for most people.
Yeah, because anytime my thoughts are racing, I know my heart rate is also higher,
Oh, my heart
which
rate's always high, no matter what. So,
well, and maybe some of it is that it's more so not even that my heart is actually beating faster, but I just feel my
yeah,
heart
I know
beating.
exactly what you mean.
So I don't actually think that like sometimes I'll get super anxious and then I think my body just starts to notice the physiological response. So it feel and my heart rate might be. I've never tested it. I guess I could look on my Apple Watch, but I don't want to look because if it that would make me personally more anxious. If I used my Apple Watch when I was feeling anxious about my heart to see if my heart was actually higher, that would just be terrible for me personally
Yeah,
because that would just make me even more anxious because I just have to remind myself that this is just personal. This is not advice, but this is just for me that I am going to be okay or I'm not going to be okay. And if I'm not going to be okay, I can't really help it. Like it's something that
yeah,
I have
you
to
could go to
accept
the
either way.
hospital,
Well, yeah, I could. And I mean, who wants to go to
but
well,
this
if
is
you are having issues, you should go to the hospital. I will not say do not go to the hospital. For me personally, I would if I needed to, and you should if you need to. But it also sucks because we live in America where
yeah, we have to
that
pay
would put you
like
into
$1,000 at least.
debt for the rest of your life, and that's not
Yeah,
fair. That's unethical, in my
yeah.
opinion.
I mean,
Because if I'm dying, it's either go to the hospital and be burdened for life or die. That's my two choices. That's
yeah, it's pretty
the
cool. Like, and medical
system.
debt all needs to be just be forgiven
Oh yeah,
because
well, yeah,
medical debt is such a ridiculous concept.
it is. It's very interesting how we have been tricked into believing how society should run and how a human experience should exist. Because to me, a human existence experience, because as far as we know, we only have one, should be freeing, not um like so it should be freeing,
And
not trapping in a
the other
way.
thing that I know we're going off on a tangent here, but I just need to say this.
Yeah.
So dumb because people say, "Oh, I don't want to pay for your medical bill," but that's exactly how insurance works. Like you pay into the insurance company, and then like sometimes your money goes to other people, like because you don't need it, and so your
Yeah.
money goes to somebody else who needs it. Like that's already how insurance works. So why can't we just have universal health care and
We
do
will
it the
go
same way, but with the government and with everybody having free insurance, basically not free because you have to pay it through your taxes, but
but it would be
it
10
would
times
be.
cheaper.
Oh yeah, it would
Maybe
be.
not 10 times. I'm not going to
It would
claim
be,
10 times. We're going to
it would be a
in
lot
our
cheaper, though.
yeah.
for
in our
sure.
healthcare episode, we will go very deep into, and I want to make examples showing how, because I feel like a lot, because it also is a scam that we pay these healthcare insurance companies so much money, and then we get in the hospital and they hardly cover the bills. Like,
Yeah,
that's
it's ridiculous.
insane. That's a scam. How have we
It is
been
a scam because you
scammed
still
into
pay
believing
deductibles.
this?
Like
Huh?
you still have to pay deductibles and all that.
Yeah.
Like it's
But
ridiculous.
people think that it's good. That's what's crazy to me. I can't comprehend that.
Well, a lot
They
of
don't
people
see
say
how
it's
it's
good have never really dealt much with the healthcare system. Like I've dealt a lot with
yeah.
the healthcare system with all of my problems. So like I know how awful it is, but people who don't experience that don't understand how awful it is. Or people with money who can just pay for anything they want, like with millions of dollars, like who can just pay for like premium healthcare. They don't understand because they're benefiting more from the system than if it was universal healthcare. They wouldn't have access to those things.
Well, they wouldn't be able to pay over a poor person. Like, everybody
Right.
would have
Like
equal
everybody
access to
needs equal
healthcare,
access to
which it should
healthcare.
be. Yes.
It's awful. Like we just basically rank people by how much money they have.
That's insane to me
Yeah.
that we've been conditioned to believe that's how society should run. I mean, I'm not claiming that I know how a society should run, but to me, that does not seem like how a society should run. But I
Oh
don't
yeah,
know.
definitely not. I agree. 100%.
But we'll definitely go more in depth when we talk about healthcare.
Yeah,
Healthcare is
we'll
a
have a
huge episode.
healthcare episode where we talk more
Oh
about
yeah.
this. Or a stream or something. Whatever we do. So
Yeah.
anyway,
Or both. All of it.
for sure. So, a meta analysis of over 40 independent samples reports that religious involvement is significantly positive associated with longevity. Now, I wonder if that's religious. I don't know why it's not spiritual. I would think spiritual would be the same thing. That would also be associated with longevity, but I guess the study didn't look for that.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they focus specifically on
Yeah.
religion, which
Well,
is
they said religious involvement, so I would assume they're focusing on religion. But I
yeah.
would think spirituality would have the same effect
Oh
without
yeah.
religion, because it's the same thing. You're just not with a group of people.
One yeah.
It's pretty
And
much
like
it's,
meditation and
yeah, meditation or
yeah.
prayer or however you want to do it.
Yeah.
So people live longer, have more satisfying, meaningful lives, and have lower rates of depressive states.
I
Um,
wonder though if they're focused on religion because it's a community, whereas sometimes
maybe,
spirituality, like for me, I'm not part of any spirituality
but
group,
I
so I
still
don't
feel
have a
connected to
community.
everything, though. I
Huh?
still feel, but with spirituality, I still feel that connection to like nature,
Yeah. But
science. I feel that same physical connection that people feel with others in a religious group. Because I've been to church, I've been
yeah.
to lots of church. I went to Catholic school. I had friends who were non-denominational. I went to Salvation Army Church. Like I went to all kind. I went to churches with my mom when she was looking for churches back in the day. I mean, she doesn't go to church now, but she was trying for a little bit. And I've been to lots of different churches, and I've been to temples. Like I've been to a Buddhist temple, and like it's that same connection I can feel through spirituality, like especially in the past when I did psychedelics, like I felt that connection to literally everything. And so I would think that same connection would be implied in the spirituality.
Yeah, I guess I think
But I get what you're saying at the same time, like where you are physically with other people.
yes, physical. That's sorry. I think you I might have been understood a little. I mean, because I definitely understand. I'm not saying that spiritual people aren't connected, because we are. I get that. I feel that. What I meant is the physical aspect, because being near people physically is going to have health benefits that if you are spiritual and don't go out and connect with like physical human beings, you might not experience those exact same health benefits. So the
Although,
physical aspect is what I was meaning when I said the community, but
yeah,
spirituality is still a community. Anything is still a community. I would say being American is a community, or it should be a community. We should be
although
together. We
kind of
should,
divided, but it's fine.
well, yeah, it needs
But
to be
yeah,
changed.
like, and I think even I don't even think you need to physically connect with people necessarily either. You can, but I also think like if you have like a pet or if you go out into the woods and you see a deer or something, like you can have that spiritual connection with animals too. And it'll release oxytocin. most of the time. If you see a cute animal, at least. Maybe not like a snake, but like a deer or like a cat or a dog or a wolf or whatever. Like that stuff is cool.
Yeah,
And
I
I
and I guess
really feel more spiritually connected to the animals than people. But that's just me. At
yeah,
least
and I guess I don't know the exact mechanism behind, but I know that it is just like I think there's hormones and chemicals that are released when you are with humans
yeah, for
too
sure.
that you might not.
I
I
think
mean, I'm not saying that
people
animals don't
like if you
release.
care about people, I think there is a level of oxytocin that is released as well.
Yeah, I
Just like,
guess I don't know the science behind it. That was just my assumption as to
yeah,
why
and there's
they
other
said
chemicals that are
religious, but
released too. I don't know all of the detail, but I know
yeah,
for sure. I know oxytocin is one of them though.
yeah. But I
People love,
community can be with everyone. I agree with that,
or
obviously.
even if it's just like with your family, like if you're just connecting with your family, and that can be spiritual in a sense.
Yeah.
Even if you're just like playing a board game and like having fun and being in the moment, like being in the moment is a spiritual concept. I think that's
Another
mindful.
thing, though, now that I wonder is if it's also because when religious people meet up, they do prayer together sometimes.
That's
Like
true. Prayer
you're
and
not
well,
necessarily,
you can meditate with other people too without
yeah,
a church thing. Like I've done that
yeah.
like in rehab and stuff, like meditated with the group. And like that's interesting. But
Oh,
like
yeah.
I think it's prayer is like different than meditation, at least if you're praying out loud. Because if you're praying in your head or meditating in your head, like you're just kind of in your head by yourself, even if you're around other people. At least that's been my experience. But like when you pray out loud, it kind of forms a connection in a sense with the other people. Like everyone's connected in this one prayer, you know,
Yeah.
instead of just praying in your head by yourself.
Yeah. And I honestly personally don't know much about prayer just because I've never done or been involved. I don't know much about like religion personally, but
Oh, I can tell you a lot. I can tell you all.
maybe sometime we'll go
Oh yeah,
into
we'll go
that
on.
would be cool going into all the religions just because I love learning about them, but I
Yeah.
don't have much experience with any of them.
So, through participation in a meditation program, increases in spirituality lowered instances of depression. By becoming more mindful, a correlation with Gestalt psychology was noted. Ooh, I know about Gestalt. And as a basis for reducing depressive thoughts in real time. Several studies have shown an increase in job satisfaction with an increase in spirituality in the workplace. How people explain their work matters in building a sense of honesty and connection to their jobs. By building interconnected experiences into a workplace, people will become more productive and have a greater satisfaction in their work. That kind of sounds like similar to what we were talking about earlier with the democratic workplace. But, anyways,
Oh yeah.
levels of depression have risen in recent years, and pharmaceuticals have not had great success in eliminating the problem. A specific form of prayer that is said to have a healing effect on depressive symptoms is meditative centering prayer. The thought process used in treatment for this study is called mindfulness based cognitive therapy, which was developed by Dr. Zindel Segal.
Hmm.
Let's see. Lowering blood pressure and hypertensive levels has been shown as a benefit of spirituality. A study on the effects of transactional psychophysiological therapy showed a significant impact on patients who participated. With proper training, nurses can help patients lower their blood pressure by finding inner peace. Spiritual concept is found through intentional speech and specifics related to spiritual connection and patient interactions. Okay. I just have to say one thing about this though. Like, I think it depends on how bad your blood pressure is. Like, I think after a certain point though, like if your blood pressure is so high, like I don't think meditation is just gonna fix it on its own. Like you might need medication or you might need to go to a hospital or something.
I think it's gonna come down to the causes. Like
Yeah,
obviously,
for sure.
if
Like if
plaque
because
atherosclerosis
yeah,
is causing your high blood pressure, then I'm not saying meditation won't improve it, but it
you can
might not
improve it.
lower it to where it needs to be.
Right.
Or if you have heart disease or something,
Right.
those
But
I'm
if
not
it's
saying
just
again
for sure, like
that
if
it
it's just
wouldn't.
caused by stress though, like I think that's when it would work the best.
Yeah.
Like if your blood pressure is just caused by you being really stressed out, then meditation and mindfulness and spirituality can really help. Let's see. Spiritual people are more likely to volunteer or donate to the poor. Regular community service can serve as a buffer against the effects of stress, thus leading to longer lives. Meditate to cope with stress. 42% of spiritual people meditate when stressed rather than overeat or indulge in unhealthy coping behaviors. I should probably start doing that because, yeah, that sounds like me.
I think that's what I do when I'm, because
You
I
meditate
don't know if that's what I'm
when
doing.
you're
Well,
stressed? Or you're saying you
when I
indulge in
start,
unhealthy coping behaviors?
no, well, I used to, but now when my mind starts to get too overwhelming and my emotions start to feel too physical almost, I don't know if this is considered meditation, but most of the time, I'll just climb and like get into bed, lay there, close my eyes, and just feel and not. I don't judge. I just feel. I just let whatever experience is happening. So I guess I don't know if that's technically meditation, but
I
I
mean,
just know that
like
I
a
have to go
form of
through
meditation,
the
I would say.
experience and I can't fight it. Because anytime I try to fight it,
Yeah.
it just ends up making it worse. But other times I used to, whenever I started feeling that, would grab food or something to try to distract myself. But now at this point in my life, I feel I need to go through it because I also want to understand why I'm feeling that way. But that's just me personally. I don't know if that's good advice for everybody. And no, I don't think anybody necessarily has advice that is good for everyone. It's going to be
Right.
specific to
Everybody's
individuals
different.
and whether it works for you or not. But just because it works for me doesn't mean it will work for you, and vice versa on every advice.
Definitely.
But so I don't know if I consider that meditation per se, but I
Yeah.
definitely
It's
just
like
let my mind do its
processing your
thing.
emotions, which I think it could be a
Okay.
form of meditation. I think
Because
meditation is a broad term. Like, I don't
yeah,
think meditation is one singular thing. Like, I think it's different for different people.
I
Because
think it's
for me,
kind of just
it's just like letting my thoughts run free and closing my eyes,
yes.
letting my thoughts run free. And then I'll have the guided meditation in the back just to have some background noise so I can like focus. Because if I'm just sitting in silence thinking my thoughts, like I can't focus very well. That's just me and my
Oh, okay.
ADHD though. But
I
yeah,
get that.
so meditation has all kinds of benefits from improved health, happiness, and focus to decreased pain and depression. And they're more likely to live in a built in community. After food and shelter, social connection is the top predictor of health, authentic happiness, and longevity. Religious people are more likely to spend time with family and feel a strong sense of belonging to a community of like minded people. You know, unless their kids are gay, then sometimes they kick them out of the house. But, you know, that's just me telling my opinions here.
Yeah, that's
But yeah, and
and
then,
I think you can expand that to spiritual people too,
and
though. With like
yeah,
they don't have to just say religious either, I would say.
right, I would say spiritual people are more likely maybe I don't know necessarily family, like your blood family, but like I think of family more as like the family you build for yourself, which can include your blood relatives or adopted relatives or whatever, or step relatives. But it can also just include like friends or partners, you know, like it's
Yeah.
not just blood relatives. I just want to point that out.
Yeah. And again, none of this is I don't think I mean they would be wrong to try to generalize that being out. I'm assuming by religious people I know they don't make the claim there that it's not all religious people, but we can
Right.
like there's no it's just because you're religious
It's
doesn't
just
mean that you're
there's
going to
more
spend
like
more time with family or anything either.
yeah,
But just
it's
because you're
just they're more
spiritual doesn't mean you won't. Like you can't generalize anything. We always talk about that too, but
oh yeah.
I just like to always iterate it because
Yeah, because some people don't think about
and
that.
that's what news articles like to do to get views, and like
Yeah.
people will post TikToks generalizing advice for everyone, and I get it because you want the views and you want
Mhm.
the attention, and but it's wrong because we can't generalize. It's just you can make some like what do you want to call that, like based off science data you can make like a majority of this group maybe, but you still in my opinion can't claim every single individual of a
Oh yeah,
certain group is a certain way
for
because
sure.
there'll always be outliers. And I think there's outliers in data all the time too.
Yeah,
Usually, maybe not all every time, I guess, but
sure. So, all right, they're more likely to turn to prayer as well. Research suggests prayer helps people find comfort by assisting them to deal with difficult emotions, encourage forgiveness, and lead to healthier relationships. So, when I think about prayer, I don't necessarily think about religion. I think you can pray to the universe. Like in my like that's what I do sometimes. Like I'll send out positive vibes is the best way I would put it. And I think that's a form of prayer too. Like it's not just getting on your knees, putting your hands like this and looking up and praying to God. Like it can be if you want it to be. But for me, I like to pray to the universe sometimes and say, hey, I hope you send me the vibes for this to go well. And then I'll send out my positive vibes to whoever needs it that I can think of. And that's how I pray, I guess.
okay. I don't know much about
But
prayer, I guess, either, but
yeah, for sure. Of course, these findings could also indicate a placebo effect. We tend to feel better when we believe something will make us feel better. Even if they are placebo effects, can it hurt to go to yoga class, volunteer at a homeless shelter, or attend a silent retreat? The benefits may be worthwhile. All right, and that's all I wanted to read from this article. So I don't know if you had anything else you wanted to mention, but I mean, I've got everything down that I want to say.
um don't let me gather my thoughts quick and think
Okay.
because I think we covered most of it.
Yeah,
Just
we covered
talking
a lot.
about how belief can, like, we talked about belief, we talked about placebo, we talked about just spirituality, religion, meditation. We did talk about a lot, which is good. I think it's good. We talked about manifestation, I guess, briefly too.
We went on a little tangent about healthcare.
Oh yeah, I feel like we went on a couple of tangents, which is okay
Yeah,
because
what's
those
we
are
can
just
there.
they're little side pieces to the. I don't know if
Yeah.
side pieces is the right word to use
Mhm.
here, but they're
Yeah,
just
little tangents.
little tangents
They're fun.
that don't really detract, I would say, like, because they
At least kind of
relate.
related. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think that is just part of our brain. Like, I guess
That's just how
sometimes
we
the
roll.
ADHD brain
Yes.
can just make you make different connections, I would say, or at least for me. But
Yeah.
so I think we did cover a lot, and yeah, it's just again kind of using whatever works for you and personalizing it to
Mhm.
you and your own life, I would say.
Right. Spirituality is a very personal experience.
Yes. But you guys can leave comments below letting us know what you want us to talk about in future episodes.
You can find us right here on YouTube. You can also find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. And we do Twitch live sometimes.
Yes, so make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications so you know when we do, because we'd love to see you there. But otherwise, we will see you guys next time.